Of course, in this application here, we don't just have one option. Instead, we have 4. So one if statement alone is not enough. Instead, the choice could also be 2. What you can therefore do is add a second if statement and check if the choice is 2. But alternatively, since you could also argue that it's kind of related to this check, you could also add it to this first if statement by adding else if here. The result in this case here will be the same, but it's not always the same, depending on your conditions. If you have 2 separate if statements, this here will always be evaluated after this has been evaluated and executed. If you merge it into one if statement with an else if block here, this condition, and therefore this entire branch of the if statement, will only be evaluated if this condition here was not met. Which means that if the choice was 1, this second block will not be evaluated when using else if, but would be evaluated when specifying it as an extra if statement. Now here, since we know that we don't need to evaluate this if the choice was 1, because it then won't be 2, we can of course merge this into one else if statement. And now here we can run the code we want to run if the choice is 2. Which, since the choice is to deposit money, means that we need to get the information how much money should be deposited, and that we then need to update the account balance. Therefore here in this else if block, we might want to output some question for the user. How much do you want to deposit? Or maybe a bit shorter, simply your deposit, colon. And then again, we need to get that input. And for that, we can create a new variable here, deposit amount, which should be a float 64 value, and then use fmt scan to pass a pointer at deposit amount to that to populate that variable with the value entered by the user. By the way, this variable now would be scoped to this if branch. It would not be available anywhere else in this Go code, but that's fine because I only need it in there. After the user did enter a value here, we can then update the account balance. So we can set account balance equal to account balance plus deposit amount. Though if you have scenarios like this, where you want to update an existing value by adding a new value to that existing value, Go actually also gives you a shortcut you can use. You can use the plus equal operator here, which will do the same thing. So it's the same as setting account balance equal to account balance plus deposit amount. That would be the longer version. This here is the shorter version. You also have a minus equal operator if you would want to deduct the amount, but here it's plus equal. With that, we updated the account balance, and we therefore might want to output the new balance thereafter. So that we output print ln here and say balance updated, new amount, and then we output this account balance here. And with that, of course, if you save this and you run this application, if we choose 2, we're asked for the deposit amount, let's say 120.5, and if we hit enter, we therefore get this new amount output here. We can also remove this white space here, since println will add one automatically.